My friends, as the years pass by and the strength of youth begins to fade, there is something we must learn to treasure more than anything else, and that is peace. In our younger years, we often spend so much of our time and energy trying to be heard, trying to win arguments, trying to prove that we are right and that others are wrong. We raise our voices, we defend ourselves against every little criticism, and we push back whenever someone crosses us. But when old age comes, the truth begins to shine more clearly. Peace of heart is worth far more than being right in every debate. What is the value of winning an argument if at the end of the day, your spirit is unsettled and your mind is troubled? In the quiet season of life, silence becomes a companion that guards that peace. When you choose silence, you are not giving up, you are not surrendering, and you are not showing weakness. Silence, in fact, is strength. It is a sign that you no longer need to convince people of who you are because you have already lived your life. Your actions, your sacrifices, your journey speak louder than your words ever could. The peace you guard by keeping silent is not only for your own good, but for those around you as well. Quarrels fade quickly when one side chooses calmness instead of conflict. You begin to realize that the energy once spent on unnecessary battles is better saved for prayer, reflection, and cherishing the moments you still have. There are many who reach old age and still carry the habit of responding sharply, correcting every mistake, and speaking even when silence would be wiser. But those who learn the art of keeping still, who learn to let go of the need to react, live with a serenity that others long for. Imagine a stormy sea that suddenly grows calm. That is the picture of a soul that chooses peace in silence. Every time you hold back from an unnecessary word, every time you resist the urge to argue, you are preserving your strength, protecting your dignity, and nurturing your peace. Peace in old age also means learning to rise above the noise of the world. People will talk, people will judge, people will misunderstand you. If you try to answer them all, you will never find rest. But if you stay silent, if you focus on your own heart, their voices lose their power over you. The chatter of the world cannot disturb the man or woman who has learned to be still. There is a time to speak, yes, but in the later years of life, the greater wisdom often lies in knowing when to remain quiet. Silence also gives you space to hear what truly matters. In the stillness of your heart, you begin to hear God more clearly. You begin to notice the beauty of small things, like the laughter of a grandchild, the warmth of the sun, the comfort of prayer. These moments might be missed if your life is filled with endless arguments and noise. Peace allows you to live fully in the present, without being dragged down by the chaos of others. There will always be people who seek to provoke you, who want to argue over things that do not matter. But ask yourself, is it worth disturbing your spirit? Is it worth losing the peace you have built over a lifetime? When you are young, you may have felt the need to fight every battle. But in old age, wisdom teaches you that not every battle deserves your energy. Some things are better left in silence, and by doing so, you win a far greater victory, peace of mind. The truth is, life becomes lighter when you no longer feel the need to explain yourself to everyone. You begin to realize that those who truly know you do not need explanations, and those who refuse to understand will never be convinced, no matter how much you talk. So why waste your words? Why give away your peace? Hold on to it like a treasure, because in the end, peace is what will carry you through the last chapters of your journey with dignity and strength. My friends, when the later years of life come upon us, one of the greatest challenges is not the weakness of the body or the slowing of our steps, but the heavy load of memories and regrets that we carry within us. So many people enter old age still holding on to wounds from the past, still remembering words that were spoken decades ago, still feeling anger over wrongs that can never be undone. And yet, what is the point of carrying such a burden into the final stretch of our journey? The weight of the past is like a chain that keeps us from walking freely. Old age is not meant to be lived in bitterness or regret. It is meant to be lived in peace, in forgiveness, and in quiet reflection. That is why one of the most powerful choices you can make is to let go of those burdens and learn the strength of silence when it comes to your past pain. There are times when our minds replay old stories, times when we think back on missed opportunities or mistakes we wish we had avoided. Some of us recall friendships broken, family disputes unresolved, or moments where we felt betrayed and abandoned. The temptation is to bring those stories up again and again, to remind others of the pain they caused, to keep speaking about what could have been. But the more you talk about those wounds, the more power they hold over you. Words keep pain alive. Silence allows it to heal. By choosing not to revisit every old hurt, you release yourself from its grip. Forgiveness, in many ways, is not about the other person. It is about you. Many people who wronged you may never apologize. They may never understand the pain they caused. But when you forgive quietly, when you choose not to carry that anger anymore, you set yourself free. Holding on to resentment in old age is like carrying stones in your pocket while trying to climb a hill. Every step becomes heavier and your journey becomes harder. But when you lay those stones down, when you forgive and move forward in silence, the path becomes lighter and your spirit stronger. Letting go of past burdens also means silencing the inner voice of regret. So many people reach their later years and think, if only I had chosen differently, if only I had taken that opportunity, if only I had spoken up back then. But, my friends, life is not lived in if only. Life is lived in the present moment. The past cannot be changed, no matter how much you wish it could. And the more you dwell on it, the more you rob yourself of the joy you could be experiencing right now. Silence those regrets. Turn your focus away from what is behind you and begin to see the beauty of what is still ahead. There is also great wisdom in choosing silence when it comes to family conflicts that stretch back many years. Some of you may have brothers or sisters you haven't spoken to in decades, children who hurt you with their words, or relatives who never valued your sacrifices. The natural impulse is to defend yourself, to remind them of what you did for them, to demand the respect you deserve. But often, those arguments do not heal anything, they only reopen wounds. Silence in these matters is not weakness, it is strength. It is choosing to value peace over pride. Sometimes the greatest way to honor yourself is not by winning an argument, but by keeping quiet and letting God be your witness. And when you look back on your own mistakes, learn to silence the voice of self-condemnation as well. You cannot go back and change what was done, but you can forgive yourself. You can choose to no longer speak words of shame over your own life. You can choose to stay silent about your failures and instead focus on the lessons you have learned. Old age is not a time to keep rehearsing what went wrong. It is a time to embrace what is left with gratitude. There is a certain freedom that comes when you no longer feel the need to explain the past to everyone. You don't need to keep telling your children about how hard your life was for them to understand your sacrifices. You don't need to remind the world of how much you suffered. Sometimes the most powerful statement is silence. By letting go of those burdens quietly, you teach the younger generation that peace is more valuable than holding on to old battles. My friends, as the years advance and the body grows weary, one of the greatest treasures we have left is our dignity. It is the crown of a life that has been lived through struggles, victories, sacrifices, and lessons. But dignity is fragile. It can be easily diminished if we allow ourselves to be dragged into unnecessary conflicts or arguments. In old age, when we try too hard to defend our point, when we raise our voices to demand respect, when we argue with those who cannot understand us, we do not always gain honor. We risk losing the quiet strength that age has given us. That is why silence becomes such a powerful guardian of dignity. It protects the honor that a lifetime has earned. There will come moments when younger generations may misunderstand you. They may look at you as though your wisdom no longer matters, as if your words are outdated or your perspective is no longer useful. They may even dismiss you, cutting you off mid-sentence, eager to share their own view. The instinct within you might be to fight for your place in the conversation, to remind them that you have lived longer, that you have walked through storms they cannot imagine. And while those things are true, raising your voice rarely earns their respect. Often, it is your silence that speaks louder than your words. When you sit with composure and let their chatter pass by, you are showing them that your dignity does not depend on their acknowledgement. Respect is not something that can be demanded. It is something that is quietly commanded by the way you carry yourself. When you argue, when you shout, when you insist that others see things your way, people may remember the noise, but they do not always remember the wisdom. But when you remain silent, when you respond with calmness rather than conflict, people begin to notice something deeper in you. They see that you have reached a place where dignity is not tied to proving yourself. Silence, in this way, becomes a testimony that you are above the noise. There is also another side to this. Sometimes, in old age, we feel the pain of being overlooked. Perhaps children are too busy to listen. Perhaps society celebrates the energy of youth and ignores the experience of age. That can hurt deeply. It can feel as though all that you have endured and all that you have to give is cast aside. But the answer is not to lash out, not to demand their attention with harsh words. The answer is to preserve your dignity with quiet strength. If they do not see your worth today, one day they will remember your patience, your silence, and your steady presence. Words may be forgotten, but the image of your dignity will remain with them for years to come. And let us not forget that silence is not emptiness. It is full of meaning. Silence allows people to reflect on their own behavior. When someone disrespects you and you choose not to argue back, your silence becomes a mirror that forces them to see their own actions more clearly. They may not admit it in that moment, but in time, many will feel the weight of your quiet response far more than they ever would have felt your loud rebuke. In this way, silence protects your dignity while also planting seeds of humility in others. Dignity is also about self-control. In old age, when energy is precious and health is fragile, wasting it on endless disputes only diminishes the quality of your days. But when you control your tongue, when you know when to speak and when to remain silent, you save your strength for what truly matters. You protect your health, you protect your spirit, and you keep your dignity intact. Think of how often in life people have spoken words they later regret. Words spoken in anger, in frustration, in desperation. Words that once released cannot be taken back. In youth, we often make this mistake, but in old age, wisdom teaches us that silence saves us from those regrets. Every moment you choose silence over harsh words, you protect not only your dignity, but also the peace of those around you. It is a noble thing to be remembered not for quarrels, not for arguments, not for sharp words, but for calmness, grace, and quiet strength. Let the younger generation see that true honor is not found in the loudness of your voice, but in the steadiness of your silence. For when you hold on to dignity in this way, your legacy will not be one of noise and conflict, but of peace and respect. My friends, as the seasons of life change and the body grows older, the world around us begins to shift as well. In our youth, we are so often consumed with caring for others. We work hard to provide for our families. We spend countless hours worrying about children, about friends, about responsibilities that never seem to end. For decades, life is a constant giving of ourselves to others. But when old age arrives, the call is different. It is no longer about pouring yourself out until there is nothing left. It is about learning to turn inward, to focus on yourself, to care for the body, the mind, and the soul that God has entrusted to you. So many people enter the later years of life still trapped in the same pattern of neglecting themselves. They continue to live as though their strength will never fade, as though their health will always remain. But the truth is, in old age, the body begins to slow down. It demands care and attention in a way it never did before. And this is not selfish, it is wisdom. Prioritizing your health, being mindful of what you eat, how you rest, and how you spend your energy is not indulgence, it is stewardship. Your body is the vessel through which you have lived your entire life. And now in this stage, it deserves gentleness and respect. But caring for yourself is not only about the body, it is also about your heart and your mind. There comes a time when you must stop allowing the noise of the world to disturb your peace. Too often, the elderly are weighed down not just by physical ailments, but by mental stress. Worries about family conflicts, financial concerns, or the direction society is heading. My friends, these are burdens too heavy for weary shoulders. In old age, you are not meant to solve every problem of the world. You are meant to seek calmness in your mind and contentment in your heart. That means choosing peace over arguments, choosing quiet reflection over needless disputes, choosing silence when words would only stir up pain. There is also the spiritual side of self-care, perhaps the most important of all. Old age is a sacred season. It is a time to draw closer to God, to find strength in prayer, to let silence become a bridge between your heart and His presence. The worries that once consumed you begin to fade, and what truly matters comes into sharper focus. Caring for your spirit means spending time in gratitude, seeking forgiveness, and preparing your soul for the eternal rest that lies ahead. This is not a season to waste on bitterness or regret. It is a time to fill your heart with peace. Focusing on yourself also means allowing yourself to enjoy the simple joys of life. For too long, many of us postpone happiness. We say, one day I will rest, one day I will travel, one day I will do the things I love. But often that one day never comes because we keep giving ourselves away to responsibilities. In old age, do not be afraid to embrace those simple joys. Sit in the sunlight and feel its warmth. Listen to the laughter of your grandchildren without distraction. Spend time in nature where silence speaks louder than words. These are not luxuries, they are healing for the soul. And remember, taking care of yourself in old age does not mean shutting others out. It means setting boundaries so that you do not exhaust yourself trying to fix everything for everyone else. You can still love your family, you can still give advice, you can still be present for those you care about, but not at the expense of your own peace. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for others is to take care of yourself, because when you are at peace, when you are healthy in body and spirit, you become a source of calmness for everyone around you. Many people confuse silence with loneliness, but in truth, silence can be one of the most nourishing forms of self-care. It allows you to rest your thoughts, to recharge your energy, to listen to the whispers of your own heart. In the stillness, you discover who you are beyond all the roles you once played. You are not only a parent, a worker, a provider, you are a soul loved by God, deserving of rest and dignity. So do not be afraid, my friends, to turn your focus inward in these years. Do not feel guilty for taking time to care for your body, to nurture your mind, to feed your spirit. You have spent a lifetime giving yourself to others, and now it is time to honor yourself with the same care. Because in old age, when you focus on yourself with gentleness and stay silent in the face of noise, you discover a peace that nothing in this world can take away. My friends, one of the greatest lessons that age teaches us is that wisdom is not always in the speaking, but often in the listening and observing. When we are young, there is a fire in us to make our voices heard. We want to prove our knowledge, we want to show the world that we understand, and we want to make sure no one overlooks us. But as the years go by, life teaches us that not every situation requires words, and not every moment needs our opinion. In fact, some of the most powerful moments in life come not from speaking, but from staying silent and watching carefully. When you choose to speak less, something remarkable happens. You begin to notice more. You begin to see the expressions on people's faces when they talk, to hear what lies beneath their words, to understand the feelings they are hiding. Silence sharpens your awareness. It allows you to see truths that others miss because they are too busy talking. Old age, then, becomes a season not just of silence, but of deep understanding. The less you speak, the more clearly you see. There is wisdom in knowing that your voice does not need to fill every silence. Sometimes a quiet presence has more impact than 1,000 words. Think of the people you remember most from your past. The ones who calmed storms simply by being there. The ones whose silence carried weight. The ones whose restraint showed strength. You do not always remember the loudest voices. You remember the ones who carried themselves with quiet dignity. That is the power you hold in old age when you learn to speak less and observe more. Observing more also means understanding people beyond what they say. You begin to see who truly values you and who only seeks to use you. You notice which relationships are built on love and which are built on convenience. You learn the difference between those who respect your silence and those who mistake it for weakness. And once you see these things clearly, you no longer waste your energy on the wrong people. Your silence helps you guard your heart. Speaking less also protects your peace. Every time you hold your tongue in a situation where anger is pushing you to speak, you are saving yourself from regret. Words once spoken cannot be taken back, and in old age, there is no reason to fill your final chapters with bitterness caused by careless speech. You have nothing to prove anymore. You do not need to win every debate or answer every criticism. Silence becomes your shield, and observation becomes your strength. And yet, let us not confuse silence with passivity. Staying silent does not mean you are powerless. It means you are wise enough to know when your words are needed and when they are not. There will be times when speaking truth is necessary, but those times are rare. Most often, the greater wisdom is to watch, to listen, and to let silence speak for itself. People will often reveal who they truly are if you simply allow them the space to speak while you remain silent. Old age is a time when you do not need to insert yourself into every conversation. You can let others have their say, let them believe they are right, let them carry on without interruption. Your silence does not mean you agree. It means you value your peace more than the argument. It means you are strong enough to walk away from what does not deserve your energy. When you observe more, you also begin to notice the beauty in life that once escaped your eyes. You see the details of a sunset, the innocence in a child's laughter, the comfort in a quiet moment of prayer. Silence opens your heart to gratitude, and gratitude brings peace. Speaking less makes room for appreciating what truly matters. The truth is, silence in old age is not emptiness. It is fullness. It is full of wisdom, full of clarity, full of lessons learned over a lifetime. And the more you practice it, the more others will recognize that your silence carries weight. They will begin to lean in, to notice the power of your quiet presence, and to realize that sometimes the greatest wisdom is not spoken but lived. My friends, as the years pass and the body weakens, there is a longing within us that grows stronger, a longing for something deeper than the noise of this world, something greater than the fleeting joys and struggles we once chased. That longing is for God. In youth, we are often distracted by ambition, by the need to build, to earn, to prove ourselves. Our days are filled with activity, and sometimes in the rush of life, we forget to nourish the soul. But in old age, the noise of the world begins to fade, and silence becomes an invitation, a sacred doorway into a closer relationship with God. When we embrace silence, we begin to hear what we had missed all along. The stillness of the heart opens the ear of the spirit. We no longer hear only the voices of people or the chatter of the world. We begin to hear the whisper of God. Old age is a gift because it gives us the time to slow down, to reflect, to pray with more focus, and to prepare our souls for eternity. And in that silence, we find strength that the world cannot give us. There is a peace that comes when you learn to sit quietly with your Creator. You don't need to shout. You don't need to explain. You don't need to justify your life. God already knows your story, every tear you've shed, every battle you've fought, every regret you carry. In silence, you simply rest in His presence, knowing that you are loved, forgiven, and never forgotten. This is the power of focusing on your spiritual life in old age. So many people, as they grow older, become consumed with fear of sickness, fear of being forgotten, fear of death itself. But silence with God turns fear into faith. When you spend time in prayer, when you read His Word, when you let your heart be still before Him, you begin to realize that death is not the end, but the beginning of eternal peace. The troubles of this world become smaller in the light of His promises. And the strength you could not find in your body, you begin to find in your spirit. Silence also gives you the power to forgive and to let go. When you are still before God, you begin to see how small the grudges of this world really are. You realize that carrying anger or resentment into your final years is a burden you no longer need. God's presence fills your heart with compassion, with mercy, with the kind of love that sets you free from bitterness. And when you live with that kind of love, you not only prepare yourself for eternity, but you leave behind a legacy of peace for those who will follow after you. There is also something humbling about realizing that in silence with God, you are never truly alone. Many in old age fear loneliness. They worry that children will move on, friends will pass away, and the house will grow quiet. But if you have built a strong spiritual connection, silence is not loneliness. It is companionship with the one who promised never to leave you. In those quiet hours, when no one else is there, God is present, closer than your breath, nearer than your heartbeat. This spiritual focus does not mean withdrawing from the world completely. It means living in the world with a heart anchored in eternity. You can still share moments with family, still smile at the laughter of children, still give advice when asked. But your deepest strength will come from the silence you share with your Creator. That silence gives you patience when others frustrate you. It gives you calmness when life feels uncertain, and it gives you hope when the days grow dark. As you grow older, let your silence be filled with prayer. Let your silence be filled with gratitude. Let your silence be filled with the assurance that the same God who carried you through your youth, who sustained you through your struggles, will not abandon you now. Old age is not a time to fear. It is a time to draw closer to the one who has been waiting for your full attention all along. So in the final chapters of life, when the world grows quiet around you, let that silence draw you nearer to God, and you will discover a strength and peace that nothing and no one can ever take away.